Okay, so we are starting the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay, the Toltec, the first chapter.
The Toltec. Thousands of years ago, the Toltec were known throughout South Mexico as women and men of knowledge.
So what does this
And
mean? Women and men of knowledge. Okay, so the shamans were called women and men of knowledge. So in any tribe, there was a person who could go into altered states of consciousness and download information which was for the benefit of the tribe, and also performed healings. Okay, so that was the definition of a shaman. So these men and women of knowledge were actually shamans of those tribes.
anthropologists have spoken of the Toltec as a nation or a race. But in fact, the Toltec were scientists and artists who formed a society to explore and conserve the spiritual knowledge and practices of the ancient
So
ones.
now again, the shamans were the repository of the cultural knowledge, the cultural information of the tribe. And they actually had associations where they would mix with each other. So it's very much like Lord of the Rings. Okay, all the Druze, they had an association. They had a society who helped each other and at times went against each other also. Okay.
They came together as masters, naguals, and students at Teotihuacan, the ancient city of pyramids outside Mexico City, known as the place where man becomes God.
Shivangla, you have to speak louder. Okay, so noggles, they were called in Mexico, they were called noggles. And if you see Caslander's books, there also he mentions the same name. I don't know how many of you have read his books, but he mentions the same. And then he says the ancient city of pyramids. So pyramids were actually found in various places. They were not only found in Egypt. Okay, so in Mexico also there were pyramids, and pyramids are basically structures which allow you to connect into an altered state of consciousness. So when you're connecting to an altered state of consciousness, you become God. You go into a higher state, right? So you start equating yourself with God. So man becomes God.
Over the millennia, the Naguals were forced to conceal the ancestral wisdom and maintain its existence in obscurity.
So again,
European
this happened. They had to maintain the wisdom and maintain its existence in obscurity because the Europeans started to attack, and the Europeans were actually destroying the entire culture, which is the same thing which happened to us when the Mughals came in, and especially the East India Company. They actually destroyed our cultural value. The history that we learn today has literally, it's basically only Mughal history. They have totally decimated all the other histories which are there. We had great kings in Assam, we had great kings in South India. They have totally eliminated all that system from the study. So to save the educational system, it was hidden from the knowledge of these uh, American conquest attackers.
European conquest, coupled with rampant misuse of personal power by a few of the apprentices, made it necessary to shield the knowledge from those who were not prepared to use it wisely or who might intentionally misuse it for personal gain.
So now, when you come into a spiritual knowledge, it, any knowledge, any information can be always used. There are always two sides of the coin. Like the atomic energy can be used to blast someone, it can be used to generate clean energy also. So, like that, when a person got power, they started misusing it. This is what has caused tantrics to get totally, I mean, they're blacklisted in our society. Why? Because they've started using that personal power that they have generated for doing bad, not for doing good and uplifting people. Now, also in those societies, the shamans of the tribe, they became egocentric or ethnocentric spirits, and they started actually using their power to protect the tribe, and they used to attack the other tribes also. So again, misuse of personal power.
Fortunately, the esoteric Toltec knowledge was embodied and passed on through generations by different lineages of Nagwals. Though it remained veiled in secrecy for hundreds of years, ancient prophecies foretold the coming of an age when it would be necessary to return the wisdom to the people.
So like we have paramparas, lineages over here, the Sapt Rishis, if you see, jo apna in Marwadis at least we have the Gotra. So each of the Gotras is lineages coming from one of the Rishis, okay? So like that the lineages were created and the knowledge was passed on from one to the other. And naturally it was hidden, and now the time has come for it to come out.
Now, Don Miguel Ruiz, a Nagual from the Eagle Knight lineage, has been guided to share with us the powerful teachings of the Toltec. Toltec knowledge arises from the same essential unity of truth as all the sacred esoteric traditions found around the world.
So again, they're going into altered states, they're downloading information, right? And if you see, the base of all religions is more or less the same. They'll all talk about love, peace, harmony at the end of the day.
Bhaiya, esoteric means what?
Esoteric means spiritual traditions.
Okay.
Though it is not a religion, it honors all the spiritual masters who have taught on the earth. While it does embrace spirit, it is most accurately described as a way of life distinguished by the ready accessibility of happiness and love.
Okay, so again, ready accessibility of happiness and love. So all religions ultimately lead to joy, happiness, and love.
The smoky mirror. 3,000 years ago, there was a human, just like you and me, who lived near a city surrounded by mountains. The human was studying to become a medicine man, to learn the knowledge of his ancestors, but he didn't completely agree with everything he was learning. In his heart, he felt there must be something more.
So now what was happening? He was studying, okay? So he was getting information, he was getting knowledge, but he was not getting the experience. So in his heart of hearts, the experience comes from what? Feeling, right? The knowledge comes from here. The experience comes from here. So he was not getting what he needed from here. So the knowledge was incomplete. It was not yet wisdom.
One day, as he slept in a cave, he dreamed that he saw his own body sleeping.
So now what was this? A classic out of body experience where he went out of his body and he's seeing himself going to sleep. So if you really see all cultures, all religions, the essence or it started basically from an out of body experience, from an experience in an altered state of consciousness.
He came out of the cave on the night of a new moon. The sky was clear and he could see millions of stars. Then something happened inside of him that transformed his life forever. He looked at his hands, he felt his body, and he heard his own voice say, "I am made of light. I am made of stars."
So now what happened? Now he was out of body, he was having an out of body experience and he was actually seeing the stars, etc. And then when he looked at his own body, he saw that there was only light. So at the end of the day, when we are going into altered states, we come to really realize and we come to experience also that we are just balls of light and we are nothing else. Okay. This form that we have is an illusion. It has been created. But in essence, that light which is there is what makes us run. Even when you see when conception takes place, when the conception takes place, there's a flash of light. Okay, that is when the baby starts to grow. Till that flash of light is not there, the baby can't grow. So when the fertilization takes place, the light is what makes it real.
He looked at the stars again and he realized that it's not the stars that create light, but rather light that creates the stars.
So if the light wasn't there, the stars would not be there, because the light is the Aadhar. In Vedanta, you say that God is the Aadhar. It is the substratum on which everything is written. So it's like the paper on which you write. Now, if the paper wasn't there, you could not write anything. Okay. So what he's saying here is that the light is the Aadhar. Everything is made of the light.
Everything is made of light, he said, and the space in between isn't empty. And he knew that everything that exists is one living being, and that light is the messenger of life, because it is alive and contains all information.
So now they are finding that dark matter. They're finding that even in outer space, the space is contained. There is something called dark matter. And every 1 centimeter square of dark matter can actually power the earth for decades and years. Okay. So he says that everything is there and the light is a messenger. It carries information. So like when we are seeing optic fiber cables, what are we seeing? That the information is pulsated using light. And I mean, the amount of data that can get transmitted through the optical fiber cable is humongous. It is absolutely unimaginable, okay, in our system. And that it is alive. So the pulsing of the light sends a message. The vibration of the light, the color of the light, everything is encoded with information. So it is alive and it has information embedded in it.
Then he realized that although he was made of stars, he was not those stars. I am in between the stars, he thought. So he called the stars the tonal and the light between the stars the nagual. And he knew that what created the harmony and space between the two is life or intent.
So again, duality. He's talking here about duality. Okay. So now, unless duality is there, we cannot experience life. So he says that the harmony and the space between the two of intent, whose intent? The divine's intent and the light. That is where life is created.
Without life, the tonal and the nagual could not exist. Life is the force of the absolute, the supreme, the creator who creates everything.
So again, that is the basic entity without which we would not exist.
This is what he discovered. Everything in existence is manifestation of one living being we call God.
So everything is God. Everything is that God. When we were talking about curiosity, I don't know when we talked about it, that the whole is there, and then it wanted to experience itself. So it created curiosity. But that curiosity is also a part of the whole. So it is that whole which encompasses everything. And we can call it God, Bhagwan, Prana, whatever we not, Chi, whatever we want to call it.
Everything is God, and he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light.
So now this is also important. What is perception? We are just perceiving, right? So we are light and we are perceiving light. So how do we see any item? It is a light is falling on that and there's a reflection of that light. What is getting absorbed? What spectrum of the light gets absorbed by that thing? That is the thing which is missing, and that is what we see as the color of the light of the object. Because if we see this thing as black, okay, what is happening? The light, the other colors are getting absorbed and only that one is getting reflected. So that is how we start perceiving. So light is perceiving light.
Everything is God, and he came to the conclusion that human perception is merely light perceiving light. He also saw that matter is a mirror. Everything is a mirror that reflects light and creates images of that light. And the world of illusions, the dream, is just like smoke which doesn't allow us to see what we really are. The real us is pure love, pure light, he said.
So again, we are living in Maya. Now he's bringing in the concept of Maya. Everything is Maya, but we have to have the perception to be able to perceive that it is Maya. Okay, now we are living in a dream. Now in a dream, if you are having a dream and you are living in a palace, when you wake up and you come into this reality, does that palace exist anymore? It doesn't, right? Because it was in a dream. Now the life that we are living is a dream in the case of the Almighty or in the God's vision. So we are dreaming it. We are creating a conscientious reality, which when we wake up from this dream, this no longer exists.
This realization changed his life. Once he knew what he really was, he looked around at other humans and the rest of nature, and he was amazed at what he saw.
So his perception changed, right? Now, as soon as your perception of something changes, then the way that you are looking at it shifts. So suppose you are in a deep troubled state. If you change your perception of how you're perceiving that, the whole scenario can twist around. Okay. So because he shifted his state of consciousness, the way he was perceiving things shifted.
He saw himself in everything, in every human, in every animal, in every tree, in the water, in the rain, in the clouds, in the earth.
So
And
now
he
what
saw-
happened? He went into that expanded state, and in that expanded state, it's a state of oneness. So everything is with each other, everything knows each other. So you experience the same way that everything. There's a story about Ramakrishna ji where a dog came and took a roti from him, and then he started charging after the dog to give him back the roti because he considered the dog also to be a part of God. So he could not distinguish between God and the rest of reality. Okay. So again over here, because he's going into that altered state, what he is experiencing is the total oneness, that everything is in everything else. So he experiences everything as himself. Okay.
And he saw that life mixed the tonal and the nagual in
This
different
book
ways
is
to
these
create.
words are little smaller, ma'am. Can you just little make it broader? These words are very small.
No, if I'm making it bigger, then it's going across my screen. I tried that. It's 100%
Okay.
just now, but I'm not being able to make it 110. 125
Okay.
for me is going across. I tried that.
Okay. Thanks.
What you all can do is take a printout of the book at your end. Just take a print of the PDF.
How to make it in between this
Yeah,
125?
you can type it over here. Just type it over there if it's possible.
Okay.
Yeah. 15 कर लो.
अब एकदम ठीक है, बड़ा बड़ा हो गया.
20 करो, it may get better.
No, it's going out then for me.
Okay, ठीक है.
This is fine now. This is fine.
Okay.
And he saw that life mixed the tonal and the nagual in different ways to create billions of manifestations of life.
So now how can you experience anything? Only in contrast to something else, right? So he's saying the tonal was the stars and the nagal was himself. So there was a distinction. Now how do I compare these two things, right? Now I have two pens. How do I compare it? How do I know this is black? Because I have something to compare it against. Now if I had nothing to compare it against, I would know that I would not know that this is a black thing. It's a black color. Okay. So like that, when I'm mixing different colors, when I'm mixing the different aspects of the experience, I get different stuff going on.
In those few moments, he comprehended everything. He was very excited and his heart was filled with peace. He could hardly wait to tell his people what he had discovered.
So now, as soon as he experienced that, what happens? That you want to go and explain this thing to everyone else. Okay, that's a natural inclination. Wow, this is what I've perceived. Now I want to explain it to everyone. And this is a mistake that everyone makes. Let me tell you, I've even made this mistake. And I've learned the hard way, and most practitioners achieve it the hard way. Even in the Gita classes, he says the same thing. When I first learned Vedanta, I used to go and talk to everyone and tell everyone, okay? But everyone has to be ready to experience it and understand and hear it.
तो बोलना नहीं चाहिए इसका मतलब?
आगे पढ़ते हैं फिर देखते हैं.
खाली जिनको समझ में आता उनको समझाना चाहिए. But there were no words to explain it. He tried to tell the others, but they could not understand. They could see that he had changed, that something beautiful was radiating from his eyes and his voice. They noticed that he no longer had judgment about anything or anyone. He was no longer like anyone else.
So now, when you've had that altered state experience, it's very difficult to really explain that experience to anyone. There are many people over here who have attended the excursion workshop and the Lifeline program and the Gateway Voyage. If you ask them to explain what their experience was, it's extremely difficult for them to explain. This is one of the biggest challenges we have, where we tell people everyone should attend the excursion. But how do we explain to them that experience? Because that is an experience they have to experience for themselves. No one can tell you. Now, for example, if someone doesn't know the taste of salt, how are you going to explain the taste of salt to that person? It's literally impossible, right? So you have to experience it for yourself. Now, since the others had not experienced that experience, it becomes very difficult for him to explain it to them and make them understand. However, the outwardly people can see the difference in him. So like people who've been attending the meditations for a long time, when they're coming on screen, I can actually see the softening of the face, the rounding of the face, the gentleness which has come into the aura. And many of them are actually saying that people around them are actually perceiving that difference in them. So this is the same thing that they are over here. And then they noticed that he no longer had judgment about anything or anyone. Because when you're looking at it from a higher state of elevation, of consciousness, then good and bad become a perspective. Nothing is absolutely good and nothing is absolutely bad. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on the situation. So naturally, you stop judging things, because when you are part of the whole and you experience yourself as the whole, then who are you going to judge? You can't land up judging yourself, right? So naturally, he stops judging anything. He stops judging anyone or anything.
He could understand everyone very well, but no one could understand him.
So now what happened? He was operating a higher state of consciousness. So now it's like this. Everyone is here, right? If this is my palm, everyone is here. They can only perceive so much, but he is here. So he can perceive a larger picture. Now, if I am not in a particular state of consciousness, I cannot experience that state. But when he is in a higher and a more elevated state, so the lower states become a subset of his state. So naturally, he understands what everything, he's got the bigger picture. He understands everyone. But naturally, no one can understand him, because he has gone beyond their capacity of comprehension and perception.
They believed that he was an incarnation of God, and he smiled when he heard this, and he said, "It is true, I am God, but you are also God. We
So
are the
now
same, you and I."
he's a self-realized person, right? So any self-realized person starts vibrating very near the frequency of the divine. So he says that yes, people start observing him as divine, okay, as a great one. But he says with humility, anyone who's going at a higher state of consciousness, humility also has to start coming into the picture. So what does he say? That yes, I am God. I definitely am God, but so are you. Okay. So it's not that he's elevating himself above the rest of people, but he's bringing them with him.
We are the images of light, we are God. But still, the people didn't understand him.
So naturally, it was a concept which was beyond their comprehension. So they could not understand what he was saying.
He had discovered that he was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror in which he could see himself. Everyone is a mirror, he said. He
So
saw
now,
himself in everyone. But nobody saw him as themselves.
okay, so now what happened? Now he saw himself as the mirror of the rest of the people. So what does that mean? Whatever is in you, that is what you will see in the other person. So if I walk into a room and I'm more interested in carpets, then when I walk into the room, I will look at carpets. If I'm more interested in furniture, I will pay attention to the furniture. If I'm more interested in paintings, I will look at the paintings. So similarly, whatever is resonating in me, that is what will reflect in me. Now this is something that we dealt with in power in Zero Limits, as well as Dark Side of the Light Chasers. When we read these two books in our book clubs, this is what we found, that in Zero Limits we have to take responsibility for everything. So in that book they say that everything that comes into your awareness, you are responsible for. Now, if I am responsible for something, then I need to clean it in my field. And then in Dark Side of the Light Chasers, they said that anything that troubles you is in your field, otherwise it would not trouble you. Okay, so naturally, if I clean myself, then the stuff stops irritating me more anymore. So when people are doing the meditations, I call hemisync meditations, or the Monroe Institute audio support technology processes, that it acts like a jhadu. It sweeps you. It cleans what is hung in your system. So you start reacting less. Your reactivity starts to fall. Stuff that used to trouble you previously will stop troubling you. Okay. We do the same thing in biofield tuning, where when we are bringing the tuning fork into your field, the sound of the fork starts to shift. If there's anxiety, if there's anger, it'll go ee. If there is sadness, depression, it'll start making sounds like that. And then we clear that sound, because the tuning fork has a coherent sound. It allows that thing to dissolve and bring it back into you, because that is photons of light which are stuck, which you're not being able to use. In shamanism, it is called soul portion retrieval. So we retrieve that part of you and bring it back into your system. So when he says over here, he discovered he was a mirror for the rest of the people, a mirror which he could see himself. Because only what do you see in a mirror? You see a reflection of yourself. So when he was looking at people, what he was perceiving was in him. So he could see it as a reflection. Okay, but because people were not in that state of consciousness, they could not perceive what he was perceiving.
And he realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness.
Okay, so what was he saying? That since he was in a higher state, he was being able to observe that everyone was going through the rigmarole, but they were doing it without awareness. So when we are looking at whatever we are doing in Awareness Foundation, the idea is only to expand our state of awareness. So we talked about this, so I won't be able to share it here. Let me just do it here, 1 second. Okay, so we do it like this. So before we are born, our state of awareness is over here. Okay, this is the awareness. Now, when we are born, we reduce our awareness to this. And when we die and we go back, we make our awareness over here. Okay, who's removing it? Okay, so have you all got that? Now, if when I'm in an expanded state, this is my awareness. Now, when I'm living in the 3D world, my awareness comes over here. Now, what are we wanting to do? We are wanting to expand the state of awareness. So we become more aware. Okay. Are you all getting that? So over here, he realized that everyone was dreaming. So this state is like the dream state because we are not aware. But naturally they are there without awareness.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
So here, when you said our awareness comes down, what
Yes,
is the whole purpose? I understood, like, once we had talked about this, saying that we have to experience it. If we know, we cannot experience it.
correct.
But isn't this like the biggest kind of vicious circle, on and on and on and on? But as we discussed it, there has to be a guru, there has to be somebody to tell you. But why don't we internally even understand a bit of this purpose without trying to make steps towards it?
That's the basic point, right? When you're going into those expanded states, you can get downloads also. But this school, the 3D school that we are experiencing over here, is a very, very powerful process because you can learn a lot in a short span of time.
Okay, provided you understand that, right? So
Yeah,
I
so now
remember,
you're
like, couple of my years just went like that without even understanding the purpose of life, why this is like, so it's too late.
Exactly.
I think I left a lot of my 20, 30 years just like that.
So you I mean, you're not that old yet, right? So you
I
should
am.
be grateful
I'm
that
46 now.
you should be grateful that it has come into your life now. You get
I
that?
am.
So
But
let's operate out of gratitude that, okay, now you've come into this system where you're actually experiencing all this stuff. And the Lord has given you the opportunity to do it and say thank you to Corona.
Yeah, I totally agree.
You get that? So if Corona hadn't
And
come,
to you and your Awareness Foundation, I must say that.
But you see, you have to thank yourself. It's your prarabdha. If your prarabdha would not have been there, or that vasana wouldn't have been there in you to be able to experience all this, you wouldn't be experiencing it. So say thank you to yourself first.
Yeah, everybody, the universe.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay. So now again, it's a matter of awareness, right, Sheetal? Today you are experiencing this. Why? Because you are becoming aware. You did not know this thing existed. So what were you living in? So he realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness. So you were going through life as a dream. You were not aware that all these things existed.
Correct.
So that's exactly
as you
what he's
said, I
saying.
want to tell everybody, but they just don't get it. Like, I don't know
So
what
that's
to
the
say.
basic point. So that's what he said. In this passage, what did he say? He tried to tell others, but they could not understand. He's saying it right here. So when a person is ready, the person will come. Our job is to put the plate in front of them, put the system in front of them. Whether they take it or not, it's their business. Are you getting that? So over here he says, okay, so there were no words to explain it. He tried to tell others, but they did not understand. So again, in spirituality, if you keep poking someone and people learn the hard way, let me tell you. So you have to be very gentle in explaining these things to people. For most people, they are stuck in the materialistic world. They're not going to understand what you're saying. Okay. So when the time comes, that is when they become more aware. Are you getting that?
Yeah, I'm getting that. But I wish there was something where people just understood it when they are born, I mean, I think they would achieve a lot.
So this stuff, whether it's Vedanta, see, it's all saying the same stuff. Whether it's the Gita, it's the Vedanta concepts, whether it's, I mean, every kind, see, I'm equating so many different technologies, so many different processes to the same thing, if you're getting what I mean. Okay. So everything ultimately says the same thing. See, it's like this. If I have this, let's say I have this jar. Okay. Now, this is transparent, so you can see it. But if I was looking at it from this side, from where I am looking at it, I would see the jar as whole. But I don't know if there's a hole on the other side, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
the more
That's right,
perspectives we get of looking at the same thing, the more awareness that we get, the more aware we become. So what is that idea? That expansion which we are talking about in the middle is basically an expansion of awareness. We want to understand more. We want to get a bigger picture. We want to get a higher picture. Okay, so again the
Right.
same concept, instead of looking at it from here, we want to look at it from there. If you get
Yeah.
what I mean, you
Yes,
understand?
yes, yes,
So we
yes.
want to expand our awareness. That's what he's saying. He realized everyone was dreaming, but without awareness. So the moment you become aware, that's when you open your eyes, right? You become
Correct.
aware.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
He realized that everyone was dreaming, but without awareness, without knowing what they really are. They couldn't see him as themselves because there was a wall of fog or smoke between the mirrors.
So
And
what is
that
that
wall of
wall?
fog,
What is the wall of fog? It is agyan. It is lack of knowledge, lack of information, lack of experience. That is that fog which is there between them and what is real. Okay.
and that wall of fog was made by the interpretation of images of light, the dreams of humans.
So now we are interpreting, we are perceiving in a particular way, but that perception may not be the correct perception because there is a higher perception. Now I'm sitting in an air conditioned room and I'm feeling hot, but today I will only know that it what is the temperature difference if I step out of the room and I see the temperature outside. Then I will realize that the room inside, because of the air conditioner, is cooler and the temperature here is lower than the temperature outside. But in any case, I may be feeling hot even in the air conditioned room. Okay, so we need to wake up. That's the basic idea. Shivangla, what happened? We've lost her, I think. Oops.
One second, one. Oh, बाबा मिल जाएंगे, बाबू नहीं मिलेंगे. Sorry.
Don't pick up
The
your phone and
difference?
all, right?
No, it was an urgent call from your office because you were not picking up. The difference is that when the brain is awake, there is a material frame that makes us perceive things in a linear way. When we go to sleep, we do not have the frame, and the dream has the tendency to change constantly.
So
Humans are
again, one
dreaming.
second, please read this again.
The difference is that when the brain is awake, there is a material frame, and that makes us perceive things in a linear way. When we go to sleep, we do not have the frame, and the dream has a tendency to change constantly.
So now when we are awake, we are perceiving in a particular way. Okay. So we see things in constant, because I'm seeing a whiteboard over here on the side. The whiteboard is constant. Why? Because I'm seeing it constantly. And there is a frame, there's a framing of space, there's a framing of linearity over here. Now, when I'm dreaming, that frame is not there. So it keeps jumping from one to the other. You'll find one thought is going from the other thought. Now, suppose you are sitting over here and you start daydreaming. What will happen? This linear thing that we have created here disappears and you have gone into some other state. And when we are daydreaming, fat, things can change very fast, because again, it's a different state of consciousness.
Humans are dreaming all the time. Before we were born, the humans before us created a big outside dream that we will call society's dream or the dream of the planet. The dream of
Shivangla,
the
we can't
planet
hear you properly. We can't hear you properly.
The dream of the planet is the collective dream of billions of smaller personal dreams, which together create a dream of a family, a dream of a community, a dream of a city, a dream of a country, and finally a dream of the whole humanity.
Okay, now 1 second. So now what is happening over here? All of us are dreaming, and there is something called partner dreaming also. So what we have created over here around us is the consensual reality that we have created. All of us have desires, all of us have vasanas. So all of us collectively have created the reality that we have created around us. Okay, so this is what he's saying. It's the dream of the family, a dream of the city, the dream of the country, and dream of the final finally the whole humanity. So we cannot blame anyone for anything because we are part of the whole, and what is being created around us is also created by us. Okay.
The dream of the planet includes all of society's rules, its beliefs, its laws, its religions, and its different cultures and ways to be, its governments, schools, social events, and holidays.
So everything is created in that collective consciousness.
We are born with the capacity to learn how to dream, and the humans who lived before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams.
So again,
The
this is
outside
what parampara teaches. Okay, so you are taught to dream in a particular way. So you are made to follow rules. You are made to follow regulations. A box gets created for us, and the idea of expansion of consciousness is to step out of that box, that increase our own conscious awareness so that we can become aware of what and why it is happening. For example, don't cut your nails in the night. Now, why was that? Because when that thing was created, they were using knives to trim their nails. And if they did it at night, there was hardly any light. So it would cut the hand, right? Now, it doesn't hold valid anymore because we have artificial light. So again, we cannot stick on to that particular thing. So we have to raise our awareness to see what is valid and what is not valid anymore. But over here, the humans lived before us teach us how to dream the way society dreams. So the norms that are created. Of course, these norms are useful, but we have to have conscious awareness as to what is useful and what is not useful.
The outside dream has so many rules that when a new human is born, we hook the child's attention and introduce these rules into his head, into his or her mind.
So now what happens? When a child is born, how many times do you say no to a child? And how many times do you say yes to a child? Think about it. So what is happening is, we most of the time we are considering no, no, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Okay. So now what is happening? We are creating a structure in the mind of the child that this is wrong and this is right. Rather than experiencing and learning from that experience, we create boxes in the mind of the child. And this came out very well. The matrix system, which we did in Magical Child, it came out very well. Where in the first matrix, the child has to be given as many physical implements and experiences as possible. They have to have an opportunity to experience that. But what do? We say no, 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 no. Now, when we say no, the child has not actually experienced it. So he knows intellectually that he should not do something, but he really does not have wisdom as to why he should not do it. Why? Because that experience has been taken out from his state of awareness.
The outside dream uses mom and dad, the schools, and religion to teach us how to dream.
So again, we are being taught that, okay, what is real and what is not real. Now, if you'll see, most children, they'll start daydreaming. They'll have imaginary friends, so-called imaginary friends, but they are very real to them. Okay. Now, there are certain movies, I think it was called Heaven, Heaven is Here or something, where there is one scene in that movie where this lady, she is in coma, and this other guy, he goes and rents out her apartment. Now, this guy is attempting to go and tell the sister of this lady who's in coma, because they're going to unplug her, that not to unplug her. And he goes to tell her, and she goes with him in that spirit form. And the child is there, where the child is serving, is playing tea and tea. So she has put up two plates. And then she says that, okay, auntie has also come, I'm putting another plate for auntie. So the child could perceive the spirit, but the sister could not perceive the spirit. So children are very, very perceptive, but we tell them, no, no, it's all imaginary, it's imaginary. And we shut off their faculties. So allowing the children to play, allowing them to perceive, starts to become very important in this case.
Attention is the ability we have to discriminate and to focus on that which we want to perceive. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously, but using our attention, we can hold whatever we want to perceive in the foreground of our mind.
So now this is again important. What is said that we are fed with 50 million bits of information every second. Okay. But we can only consciously hold and perceive 40 bits of information. So the brain decides what is important and what is not important for you to perceive. And naturally, whatever you are interested in, that is where your mind will get focused. Now I am sitting in this room. There's a printer here. There are so many pamphlets which are put on the softboard. There's so much writing on the whiteboard. There is a door beside me, and there is outside. There are plants. There are showpieces. We have the microscope in front of us. We have 3 computers here. We have 3 sound systems here. We have so many files over here. We have so many books here. Behind me, I have so many books. Now, there's so much going on in this room, right? And at a subconscious level, everything is getting processed. But where am I focusing my attention right now? Is on the screen. And even on the screen, there are so many things going on. But where am I focusing my attention? On me speaking. So we can only process 40 bits of data in 1 second, but we are bombarded with 40 million bits of data. Okay. So this is what he's saying over here. We can perceive millions of things simultaneously, but using our attention, we can hold whatever we want to perceive in the foreground of our mind. Okay.
Bhaiya, it's time now.
It's already time. Oh my God. Oh, chalo. Thank you. Ye paragraph kar lo.
The adults around us hooked our attention and put information into our minds through repetition. That is the way we learned everything we know.
So again, repeating.
ये पेज खत्म कर दे क्या?
It's muscle memory. Oh, nahi hoga. So it's basically muscle memory. Okay. The more you repeat something, the more information you have about it. Okay. And then that becomes automatic. It's like driving a car. In the beginning, when you're driving, you have to be conscious about everything, the steering wheel, accelerator, gear, this and that. Once it becomes normal, then it becomes by route. Okay, so the same thing happens with children also. Okay, anyone, anything to say? I thought we'll do this book fast, but it's... Anyone, anything to say? Otherwise, we'll stop for the day.
I saw my advanced program notes.
Good. So now you know this day.
Yes.
Yes.
And I use speak up a lot and be calm also a lot.
Yeah, very good.
Especially in the meetings, speak up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
Meena ji.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Meena
That's
ji,
why
you have
Bua, you
something?
speak so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, Niket ji, I
Haan ji.
really enjoyed. I
Yes.
really enjoyed the way you have explained. It's so good. I never thought I could understand a book when reading, But today I never take up a book to read.
Yeah.
Anyway, today I decided I'll want to hear
Beautiful.
because he started a new book. And I
Yeah.
want to hear what he's saying. But I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, please. Thank you for joining. And see, you can join in the middle also. All these things, all these books, they have so much of stuff in
I
there
missed it actually.
that even if you
Yeah.
join in the middle, it really doesn't matter.
Okay, I did join a little later after 15 minutes,
Yeah.
but I could make out what
Great.
you're talking about and what you're saying.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ram Ram.
Thank you, Ram Ram.
Okay,
Thank
Ram
you,
Ram.
Shrimangla.
Ram Ram, everyone. See you all for meditation.
Thank you, Shrimangla.
Thank you.
No, thank you to Sri Mangla.
No, thank you.
Bye.